Welcome to Chew Diligence, a podcast about the Kansas City food scene. I'm Jill Silva. My co-host Lindsay Shively is on maternity leave, spending some time with her beautiful new little girl, and we wish her a lot of snuggle time. To keep me on track, I've got producer Haley Godburn in the pod studio. Thanks, Haley.
Hey.
Hey, can't do this alone, you know. Today, my guest is James Beard Award-winning chef Michael Smith. You've probably been following Michael Smith's career back in the 90s when he moved here from Chicago. He has been at the American restaurant, 40 Sardines, and a decade ago, he became a crossroads pioneer with side-by-side restaurants at 19th and Main. That would be the upscale Michael Smith and the Mediterranean-inspired Extra Virgin. And at the end of January, early February, he will be transitioning Michael Smith to an event space, and he will open a new Italian restaurant and oyster bar called Farina. Welcome to the show, Michael Smith.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We go way back, don't we?
Way back.
Way back.
There's some James Beard history for you, too.
Yes, there is, but we're talking about your history today, which is going to be really fun.
This town has been good for James Beard.
It has been very good, and you started that role, so thank you very much for that. So we usually start off, Lindsay and I, talking about where we've been to eat lately. And so where have you been? Anywhere fun that's not your restaurant? We'll get to your restaurant.
We ate it a couple of times, and then we took a little takeout last night. But Pad Thai on 143rd.
I have not been out there.
I don't know how new it is. It's relatively new, but I don't know how new. But it's good food. Nice and decent, good food. Small, little, clean, pretty little restaurant.
What'd you have?
They have some little pork nuggets that are cool. They're always the Asian people, you know, whenever they do pork nuggets in any way, they're always good. And their pad thai is pretty good, and some wonton wrapped shrimp. I had the classic green papaya salad, Thai hot, and it was Thai hot.
Oh my gosh! Hot. Wait a second, you can do Thai hot?
Yes, I did Thai hot a couple times in Thailand this last year, and it did not kill me.
I'm so impressed because I cannot. Every time I go to a Thai restaurant, I think I can do like medium.
Yeah, I'm usually medium. I don't do Thai.
No.
Thai hot will kill. It just kills your taste buds. But I'll do it occasionally.
Yeah, and so
just to test,
just to see,
just a test.
And like, do you start? I don't know. Do you start sweating profusely?
Yes, I don't sweat, so I mean, I'm not. But it's very hot, and you cough and you sneeze and. Yeah, it's not, I mean, whatever, but I always test myself.
That whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked a friend about this, and I think this was her theory, it's become my theory, that she was in Thailand for quite a while, and she said they don't really change that,
no.
The spices, you know, that they're grinding, and what do you call that? I'm losing the name of that right now.
The trolley thing, the little...
mortar and pestle.
Yeah, mortar and pestle, yeah.
And she said, you know, so what is medium becomes hot and hot and hotter throughout the night.
Yeah.
Do you think that's...
It can be. I mean, I don't think they might wipe it out or something, but yeah, it may build up inside. It's really seasoning. But, you know, it's funny that we stayed in some people's homes while we were there, too, and, you know, the cooking is innate. There's no transferring of a recipe written.
Right.
We saw these kids, 8 years old, 5 years old. They go, make the blah, blah, blah sauce. They didn't say it in English. They were saying it, whatever. And the kids just squatting on the floor with one of those big freaking things, bam, 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 bam. And they just make it. I mean, they're 6 years old. And so they're making this sauce. And so then they have somebody taste it. Mm-hmm. But it was like, wow, okay.
And so if you grew up with hot, you're gonna be fine with hot.
Right. And all the kids it didn't matter.
So what about noodles? I'm curious, did you get any pad thai or, since that's the name of the place, or any other noodle dishes?
Pad CU. We had Pad CU. We had one of the soups. It was good. I haven't tried any of the curry yet. I always want curry, and Nancy doesn't love curry, so I don't always get curry, but anyway.
The wife overrules, huh?
Well, I mean, we can eat our own food, but I just didn't get curry for whatever reason, and I like curries a lot.
Yeah, but why when you can share, you know?
Right.
So, you have some really exciting news. That's one of the reasons you're here, and that is that Farina, an Italian oyster bar. I kind of like that description. I hope is that accurate? Is that
well? You know, not that we certainly didn't invent that, but we wanted something action-oriented in the restaurant, in the dining room, that wasn't just a box with seats in it. So we decided to put an oyster bar in. We could have put a pizza oven or an open kitchen, or there's lots of reasons. But we were in Piedmont a few years ago, and we went to the first Italy in Turin, and I had some. They have all the stations that you can eat, and I just happened, my friend that we were with, the girls went to go eat pasta and pizza, and we sat at the oyster bar and had white wine and oysters, and it just made sense. It was great, and I just remember that, and I thought, that's nice.
Yeah. So describe what Farina is going to be all about. What's the concept here besides pasta? I think there's a lot of great pasta going on, oysters. So kind of walk us through a visual of what people might see when they come in.
Well, I think the menu is going to reflect a lot of what we already have been doing. We changed our menu at MS to the Italian concept a couple of years ago. So we've been kind of heading that direction anyway. But people have been wondering if we're going to not have creative food anymore. And it's not that I don't want to have creative food. Of course, we do a little bit of creative food. I'm not the most creative guy in town, but and our food sometimes look very beautiful. But I just wanted to cook really delicious food. So I'm thinking about all the foods that are Italian inspired, and there are some great American Italian dishes over the years that have been sort of compromised that are very good, and we may put some of those on. I mean, whatever, eggplant parmesan, those things aren't necessarily maybe indigenous to the Italian cooking. They're part of it, but we did it here. And then we kind of probably messed them up a little bit for a while, or just overindulged on the cheese, or whatever. So
yeah.
But we're gonna treat the oyster bar. I just hate to use the word, but for lack of a better term, like a sushi bar in a way, with raw loins of tuna or hamachi or shima aji maybe, or live sea urchins, percebes from Spain, anything raw and or cooked, crab legs or shrimp cocktail. But I want it to be more than just oysters. We're going to have 4 or 5 oysters, I think, kinds, raw clams. But really we want to treat it as we're going to feature a lot of caviar that can be affordable these days because there's so many farms doing really, really good work.
Yeah.
And they're farming very big sturgeon. So they're getting Osetra, and it's awesome. I've been getting it for 5 or 6 years now. I get it by the kilo, and it's incredible. And it's affordable. It's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as you would think it would be.
Well, so this will be at the front. So the oyster bar, when
Yes.
you walk in,
It'll look at Main Street.
it'll look at Main Street. So that's very cool, just to start with. And then you've got
I'm sorry, 19th. It'll look at 19th Street, right?
Right.
It'll
you're
face
right.
19th.
Baltimore,
Yeah.
right? But it'll face,
19th Street.
yeah, okay.
Sorry.
And so you showed me when I came in recently, these, what do you call them? Pedestals, candlesticks,
Candelabras.
candelabras.
They're squid and octopus. They're just funny and funky looking. But we're going to do a caviar beggar's purse, so just a nice thin crepe, and serve it on a candelabra, and it'll be a $38 dish, but it'll have an ounce of caviar in it with some creme fraiche, and you just sit it right on this little pedestal. And really, I didn't make that up, but the back in the 80s, Quilted Giraffe used to do that. Barry Wine, he was, the food was really good, but it was a place to be seen and a hip place, and so I've been wanting to revive something like that for a long time, and so this is kind of an opportunity to do that.
That's kind of fun, so we can be seen with one of those
Yeah,
in the window.
they're 6 or 8 inches tall, and they're kind of slender in the shape of a squid or an octopus, and so we'll just serve it, and so it'll be an interesting. Somebody sees somebody around the room or down the oyster bar eating that, like, what is that? What is that guy eating, or whatever? I don't know. We're just trying to create some visuals, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, that is part of dining, right? Do you think about Instagram when you're putting a restaurant together? What kinds of things?
I've always thought that since I I hate to invoke his name necessarily with all the controversy, but Mario Batali, when he was opening his restaurants, he always had food. There was always a bowl of peppers, bowl of tomatoes. There was when you walked in his place, it was a visual. David Boulay back in the day when he had his apples in the foyer of his Boulay restaurant in Greenwich. He had 40 cases of apples just stacked in the foyer. That's all the decor was. And you walk through, and the smell was unbelievable. And he always said, people can take an apple if you want. Nobody did. But but you could, and some people did. But and it was just because you're trying to sell food.
Yeah. So you're trying to put some ambiance
Yeah.
that includes the
Yeah.
the
So there'll
food.
be a few things like that. But, people see food, they think food. When a long time ago, a woman in town who sells wine for a living, she's since moved on, but she said, if you want to sell wine at your bar, then show them wine. If you want to sell tequila, then show them tequila. Whatever you want to sell, show it to them.
Don't put it behind closed doors, huh?
Yeah. That's why we do the open kitchens these days. I mean, everyone wants to see everything.
Now, you're not going to have an open kitchen this
I chose not
time
to.
around.
We could have, but I just, it felt, sometimes we are, we're on stage. Basically, we're on stage every night. When we open the restaurant, we're on stage. And I just felt like it's another restaurant that I would have to be visible in every moment, or it's not good enough. There's the pressure of that. And it's not that I don't want, I'm always in my restaurant. But I just thought, I don't want to have to be visible every moment. They don't need to know that I'm back there every single second to know that the food can be good. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing to say, but that's kind of the psychology of it. I just felt a lot of pressure for that. And EV's enough. One's enough.
Sometimes you want an understudy, like
A little
backing
bit.
you up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I got to go home at 9 o'clock. And if the customer, whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. So they walk in, they see the oyster bar. The kitchen is further back. Walk us through, how many seats do we have in the dining room? What does it look like?
There's about 80 or 90 seats. It's really open. It's a big rectangle box, and so there's no walls and separate rooms. There's a small little kind of room for 12 in the back corner that we found some extra space and put a wall up and kind of made a little cubbyhole room. But basically, it's an open space and divided by some couch, like couch-type banquette seating, some banquettes against the back wall, some tables along windows. We used all the window space we had. We have 2 full sides of windows in the restaurant, and every one of them you're looking out, they're looking at you, and a lot of activity.
That's what seems most striking to me, having dined at Michael Smith's, and then this is just on the other side, and yet it catches the light so much better.
Oh,
it's
the
a
lights-
much lighter space.
Oh, yeah, the light's so much different over there. It's heavy duty.
Yeah.
Until 4:30, 5 o'clock, man, it's blazing through those windows.
And your neighbor is Haw Contemporary.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the art that's going to be throughout.
We kind of thought that we would put an event space there, and we were meeting with our partner Bill Lyons one day, and we were talking about putting a small room in there and a little kitchen and this and that. And Nancy said, "What are you talking about? We have one. We're sitting in one right now. We're sitting in an event space. Why would we put $300,000 in the other?" So Bill and I looked at each other. Oh, yeah, right. So Michael Smith became an event space. So then we said, what are we going to do with this space? And we were thinking about doing an Italian food store. That could double as an event space at one point, And then all of a sudden, Bill Lyons says, hey, maybe we get an art gallery. Mm-hmm. He said, I have some ideas. I'll call some people. And he called Bill Haw, and that was the first guy he called, and he said yes in a second.
Nice.
He'd said maybe 6 or 7 shows already. He got in March. Mm-hmm. So he's already been last March.
And will you have some of the artwork?
Oh, yeah. In the restaurant? Not right now.
In the restaurant? No.
But, what we immediately thought was awesome was that, it's First Fridays it's an art district, and we don't really have that many galleries down there. There's quite a few, obviously, but it's not like it's just teeming with street after street after street of art galleries. And so having one next to us, we thought brought legitimacy to the building, to our corner, to us. We brought, something to him. We just thought it was a good match, and it has been so far.
It is. Now, you were one of the pioneers of the Crossroads. Talk to me about what that was like 10 years ago versus what it is like today.
Well, I think really Alex Pryor was really the pioneer there was nothing down there, and he was the only one, him and John O'Brien at the Dolphin. But we got there in 2007, and I knew we would be kind of busy because I had customers that were willing to find me, and I had a good following, so it wasn't that hard the first 2 or 3 years. But it was certainly closed up at night. There was never more than 3 cars parked at the light at the corner of 19th and Main at one time to get through. But, sort of when the downturn hit, obviously we were building extra virgin, and we took a hit on that. We only had to let one cook go. We made it. We didn't have to, let a lot of people go. We kept a team together. But, 5 or 6 years in, it's waning, and then they start construction for the streetcar, or they tell you that they're going to build the Sprint Center, or they're going to build Kaufman. Sure. Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
You weren't totally sold that was going to happen?
No, I don't know anything about the city and what they're doing. These guys, they're bigger than me. But it was always like, dig the hole. Then dig a hole. Somebody dig a hole. Okay, if you're building that thing, dig a hole. Same with this hotel that's going up now. It's like forever, 4 or 5 years. Dig a hole. Somebody dig a hole. So then now they're building, So then when it all started happening, and then during the middle of it, construction's everywhere. It's insane. But, we came out the other end. And so then something happened this last year. Business changed. It just turned around. I mean, it didn't turn around. It started getting good the last 2 or 3 years, but a threshold crossed this year in 2018, and people were just down there more, like all the time more. Saturdays, I'd come down at, 2 o'clock to park to go to the restaurant on Saturday. We don't do lunch on Saturday, so come in a little bit later, and there's no parking. It's like, I can't get a parking spot. So I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? And so it started happening all the time. So it's like, okay, something's going on down here.
So you think that is all the development that's been going on in terms of lofts and apartments and hotels and restaurants?
People are coming down from even from maybe, Midtown and the suburbs, just to come down on Saturday and Sunday to look around and see what's happening. And they come down during the week. And people are riding the streetcar. It doesn't really go anywhere yet. I mean, that's not a criticism of it. But, when they've had way more ridership than I guess they thought, right? So as soon as they connect that thing to the plaza, I mean, it's just all positive. And the reason all the development is happening is because of the streetcar. They want to get on board now.
So you are one of the early ones there now. A lot of people are on. If we think just about your corner of the world, you have a fair across the street, Corvino Supper Club, the Rieger.
Rieger's on the other end.
On the other end, you've got not too far away, Lydia's. So another Italian. Lazia opened up in the Crossroads.
Town Topic.
Town Topic, of course. You got a lot going on.
Up, down, right? Up, down's nuts, but they're busy. And our customer sometimes at EV is that customer, and that customer's crazy, and parties all the time. But it's a good crowd to have on the corner. We're a little nervous to see because their balcony gets a little packed. Sometimes you think, whoa, we're going to be looking right at them. But that's good. That's good for as we're in the, it's sometimes these people, the customers, they're even the people that live down there, they want it to be full and busy, and then when it is, it's a little more complicated because there's garbage and noise, and so they go hand in hand. It's downtown living, so it's a little bit, precarious.
Yeah. So, do you know all your neighbors? Do you feel close to them, or do you feel like you're too busy to, to know?
Yeah, Kim Weinberger and Blue Gallery people, Kelly Kuhn and David and the people at Arts KC. We know most of them, but we don't hang out. Nobody's got time. Who's got time, man? We're all busy. I'm busy. You're busy. Everyone's busy, right? So, we're all busy. We try. We don't not wave to each other on the street. We all get along. Corvino, we go over there and have a burger occasionally. And we just saw Howard in the restaurant Saturday night. And so, we're fine.
It's like a clubhouse, I think. Stop by when you can, huh?
Everyone's got families, I'm on the back end of my family, so that's good. And but a fair, they're raising kids, and everybody's doing whatever. So
yeah. So tell me a little bit about the menu. I've actually seen it. You gave me a little bit of a preview. I'm sure it continues to change, but the Four Kings.
Well,
how does that work? And tell people about that, because I think that's one of the hallmarks of what you're going to be doing, right?
Well,
or kingpins, or what's the word?
The Four Kings of Rome.
The Four Kings. There we go.
Yeah.
So it's the kingpin of your menu.
The kingpin, the linchpin.
There you go.
So, because we say modern Italian cooking, I've been trying to tell the Mirabile brothers and everybody else in town, I didn't invent Italian cooking, and I'm not, an expert. But I love it, and I respect it, and I want to do a good job with it. And so, what is modern Italian cooking? I think modern Italian cooking here in this town is that you can take dishes and they're just lighter, maybe they're fresher, but maybe you don't change them at all. They're just put on the plate a little bit differently. But I also think modern Italian might scare a few people in a way because they're thinking, what does that mean? We've had a few people come in the restaurant at MS over the last couple of years when we changed, and they said, "This isn't Italian. Where's the lasagna? Where's the meatballs?" And that kind of thing. So I thought about this menu thinking, I want people to come in and sit down and say, okay, this is Italian. And so I needed them to recognize some things. And we do a lot of seasonal. And in my previous food life, I would not have very many tomato things on the menu in the winter. I just wouldn't. Even though I know you can get great European, Italian canned tomatoes. So anyway, I decided, I was reading a book, this new book that came out, this little book called Vino, Pane, and Pasta, I think, something like that. And the guy was describing the history of cooking, Italian cooking and some things, whatever. And he started talking about the four kings of Rome. And I was like, what's that? And then it's the Amatriciana, it's the Carbonara, Cacio e Pepe, and really their fourth one is Griglia, which is really just pancetta, the oil and pancetta and peppercorn, and it's good, but it's greasy. It's oilier probably than most Americans want to eat on a regular basis. So I substitute bolognese. I said, well, bolognese, what the hell? I made my own king.
There you go. You can do that.
Anyway, I figured those are the four pastas that I want on the menu all the time. Mm-hmm. They'll always be there. And then there'll be six pastas that'll be more creative. And so we put those atypica.
I like that. I like that word even.
I saw that. I mean, I stole a couple things from this. So, Tony Mantuano has a cooking tree, kind of like Andy Reid has a coaching tree, And he's got these two girls that used to work for him, and one of them had from Lilia in Missy Robbins in New York. She came and did a dinner with Tony at 40 Sardines years ago. And then his other, Sarah Gutenberg, has a place in Chicago called Monteverde. And I stole that from her, the Atypica. And then on the menu, I think on the specials, on the Thursday special, we're having the Monteverde down there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I stole that from her. Okay. I ate that twice, and I told her I was going to steal it, and she said, that's fine, you can.
So tell us what that is, because that's quite a dish.
So I've never done a menu where I've had every Tuesday get this dish, every Wednesday get this dish, every Thursday get that. Anyway, So we're doing that. And the Thursday dish is, for now, and they all change, but for now, so in her place, she does this big kind of casserole dish she serves, and it's a roasted pork shank that's been braised in some kind of tomato sauce. It's 2 or 3 links of Italian sausage. It's 4 or 5 meatballs, and she uses different pasta occasionally, but rigatoni, amatriciana, spicy red sauce, whatever it is, this braising sauce. So it's just this bowl of meat with pasta. She used to tuck a little salad in there. Maybe she still does. I'm thinking, ditch the salad.
Who needs that?
Right. Anyway. Nancy and I ate at Monteverde before we went to Tokyo this last March on our Asian trip, and we had eaten everything on the menu practically. And then I saw that, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" The server told me what it was. I'm like, "We need one." Nancy's like, but we're not hungry." I said, "I need to see this thing. I'm very sorry we're going to waste food." But anyway, so I told her I'm going to steal it, and she said, "That's fine."
Very cool. It sounds a lot like the way my grandma cooked.
Right. And one of the other ones I think is spaghetti Sunday sauce maybe on there. Mm-hmm. Can't remember. I've changed it a couple times. We'll do fish on Wednesday. But spaghetti Sunday sauce. So then they mix everything in.
On Tuesday.
Is it? Oh, Tuesday. Yeah. Sorry. We're closed on Monday. But I've done it a couple times in the restaurant at one of our Thursday pasta dinners or Tuesdays, and put the spaghetti down with the braising sauce, but put the meatballs. It changes a lot, but it can be meatballs, a hunk of pork, but the bone, the rib bone, leave the bone there. So I'm going to serve it like that. A big bowl of pasta, the meatballs, the bone, some sausage, whatever. I just think that I want to get more, maybe visceral. I don't know. I want to get more love in the plate.
Oh, I love that. So let's talk about love and grandma food.
Yeah. I mean, we'll do modern kind of plating with some of our appetizers and stuff, but I think sometimes, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with a plate of grandma food.
And the appeal of Italian, we've talked about this before, and I mean, of all the foods you could cook and all the foods you have cooked, you keep coming back to Italian. Why is that?
I mean, if I could, I guess if there was another food that I would love cooking. But you'd have to learn from a very young cook, say Thai food or something like that, right? Because there's just so many incredible elements of it. But yeah, I do, and I love Mexican cooking, South American, Nicaragua, Honduras, whatever. I love all of that. I've always loved that. But for what I do as a professional, and also love it personally, Italian food for sure, yeah. And I don't know why, because I love pasta. Who doesn't love? There's just something about. I've always described when you're chewing al dente pasta or swallowing spaghetti, it's different than rigatoni. I can have pasta, rigatoni, all the short pastas for a while. Sometimes you gotta have spaghetti or linguine because it's just different going down your throat. It just is.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. We were a big rigatoni family growing up.
Same with Nancy's family and me too.
Yeah.
And I love eating the short pastas, but they're different. When you're slurping down noodles, same with Asian noodles, Chinese noodles. It's when you're slurping noodles, long noodles. It's just different, and I don't know why.
And so some of the noodles at your restaurant are going to be handmade, right?
Yeah, we say handmade. Maybe that's a misnomer because it's an extruding machine, but we crank them out every day.
House made. So
Yeah.
not necessarily dry. We're talking about a lot of fresh pasta.
Yeah, we don't dry them because we've tried to dry them, but they don't. You have to have a drying machine to really get the right hard dry. Otherwise, they dry just enough to crack and break, and that doesn't make any sense. But really, the beauty of an extruder is that it gives you that the toothsomeness. So fresh pasta has been awesome. Fresh pasta, when we've been rolling it through a roller, you can adjust the thickness so that you could get a toothsome pasta. The French forever, starting with the Robuchon guys and Alain Ducasse, they started making really thin pastas to make their food very delicate. Little raviolis you can practically see everything through. And that's great, but that doesn't give you the toothsomeness that an Italian pasta does. And so the extruder does is it gives you everything that pasta needs, but is fresh. So it cooks in like 2.5 minutes. If I were to do it fresh out of the machine and cook it would cook in less than 1 minute.
Wow.
But it sits. We put it in these little bins and hold it. So we'll make 30 orders and hold it. And so every day that it holds, which isn't more than 2, but 3 maybe max over the weekend, but it's an extra minute to cook. So it's roughly 2.5 minutes. If it's tomorrow, then it's 3.5 minutes. Not exact. We don't time it, but it's roughly that. But it has that chewiness and that toothsome like a dry pasta.
Yeah. Sounds delicious. And I was talking to Jasper Mirable, who's a friend of yours.
Yes.
And he was blown away, he told me, when he saw you making, and I don't even remember, I should have looked.
The Sardinian.
Sardinian.
Yeah, I'll think of him here in a second.
Yeah. So he said, Michael's really done the work here. He's going really deep into some of this. And he said, very few people, it looks like kind of a wreath.
Yeah, it's a rope. Yeah.
He said very few people will do this and take the time. And so he introduced you to a whole bunch of Italian chefs and restaurateurs, he told me.
We talk, or I'll text him, hey, if I'm going to, whatever, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Because he knows everybody. He introduced
He's
me.
kind of
Sure.
out there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's everywhere. Anyway, these Sardinian, they're like ropes. So you have to put 2 of them together, and you have to wrap them around you put a long one together. Sorry, you roll out a long one by hand. You roll it around 3 fingers twice. And then you have to close it and then spin it the same way so that it rolls into a rope, like a braided rope. And then it's like a circle.
For listeners, Michael's doing all of this with his hands. I wish you could see that.
Yeah.
No, you're like making them right now.
Yeah. And so then
Hair pasta.
It represents for them it represents there's a couple of things, and one right offhand that I can think of is when you roll up to a building in the old days with the horses or the animals, and you would tie them up to the ring that's hanging on the building or the post outside, almost like in the old days, the horse post. Well, they have them. When you walk by these old buildings in Europe, you see these old rusted rings attached to the building. That's usually for the animals. Used to be for the animals.
That's pretty cool. So there's a lot of different shapes that have stories like that, I understand.
Yeah. There's one it's called Calergione from Sardinia, and I can't for the life of me make it. It's a stuffed ravioli. They use potato and cheese, and it's it's pretty full and fat, and it's a teardrop shape. But they braid the top it's very easy. They just fold it. They don't really braid it. They just fold it back and forth, one side to the other, and it looks like a little kernel of wheat on top. And I cannot make it.
Ooh, I can tell that's frustrating you.
You can go on YouTube, man, and it looks, you're like, no problem, man, I can do that. And then you're doing it, and it's like, can't do it.
What do you think is hard about it? Is the dexterity? Is it the shape? Is it the...
It's dexterity.
Yeah?
Yeah. So do I have it on here? I just happen to have this sheet on me because if I call a pasta Santarelli, nobody knows what that is. If I call a pasta a paccheri, nobody knows what that is. If I call it a Garganelli or a Bigoli or a Corsetti, nobody knows what it is.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a little card made about like a little postcard made, and we're gonna have hand sketched pasta shapes with the name, so that the server can always have that.
Neat.
And they'll just show to the server because I want to. Sometimes I have to call a I can call a the casoncelli is this beautiful little square ravioli that it's a square shape, and you put the dough kind of at the bottom of one of the sides, and you roll it from the corner in, and so it's just this rolled flap with these pointy ends, and it's a casoncelli, but we call it a ravioli because nobody will order that. They don't know what it is.
Because they won't know.
They can't pronounce it, and they don't know what it is. But if we can point to it and then show the picture of it, server can just go, yeah, it's one of those. So it's not, we're not trying to be intimidating. We're not trying to show them up. We're not trying to pronounce something they can't. We're just showing them, that's the shape. And they're like, I'll have that.
Oh, that's really good for visual people, too.
The Japanese have been doing it with sushi forever.
Yeah.
The Asian restaurants do it. They show you a bowl of, you're like, man, I'll have that.
So we were talking for another interview that I did with you for a magazine, and you started talking about the food that you really wanted to eat, and you are French trained, but French isn't the one that you crave. So, what is it about Italian food that's going to make you happy until
I don't know.
Until you eat enough?
Tomatoes, prosciutto, Parmesan cheese, spaghetti. I don't know, salami. I mean, what the hell? They're all, they have great salami in France. I've eaten some great salami. But they serve jambon et beurre. Jambon et beurre is, they have their own prosciutto that they make, and but it's essentially prosciutto. So it's Italian. I don't know why. Just crave the food. And so when I lived in France, I thought it was the most. I'm thinking I'm going to live in France someday because the country's and whatever, it's all beautiful, right? But then you go to Italy and it's beautiful. I mean, you can go to Romania if you're in the middle of the countryside. You're going to go, oh, this is gorgeous. I want to live here. I mean, you can live anywhere because it's all beautiful. So, but Italian because of the food and I think pound for pound, as you travel through the entire country of Italy and the entire country of France, you'll get, it wins by a nose, but you get better food in Italy.
Wow.
Because there's sometimes, I'm really trying not to denigrate the French, but they have had a higher level of food. They have had a higher echelon of food. There's a lot of rustic stuff too. And they have had this, my chef was a little bit like this. I'm French. If I tell them to eat it, they will like it because I'm French. Okay, them. You, F you like it. I tell you like it, you like it. And the Italians don't do that. They go, come over and eat. Come on, abbondanza. Whatever. That's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Not all I'm not trying to offend you French people. I'm just saying.
So that's a little bit, that sort of grandma thing is a little bit more your personality anyway, isn't it?
Well, I think as you get older as a chef, certainly you can tell Daniel Boulud's of the world and Thomas Keller, they're getting older. They're not doing, but I'm not as talented. And so as I get older as a chef, I want to use less. I don't care about showing anybody that I know 25 techniques. I don't need to put that on a plate. I don't care. You just don't care about a lot of stuff when you get older. And so the food gets simpler. It tastes better. you're committed to cooking correctly, because as you get older, you're teaching people. So I teach people every day. So do I teach them I'm not a professor at Harvard. I'm a professor at, in Kansas City. So it's a little bit different, not as intense, not as viewed by the outside public. So we're smaller. But I try to teach them what I know, and what I know works for our community. I tell them all the time, if I were cooking in Chicago with you, my philosophy could be different, but I know what Kansas City wants to eat. I know how they want to be treated. And if you want to be successful here, you'll probably need to do some version of this within your own self.
So let's talk a little bit about...
Did I answer any of that question?
I think we're getting there. Yeah, I think...
Sorry.
No, I think this goes back to, how did you become a chef in the first place, and the sort of progression that led you to Kansas City? Because you came from Chicago, but you also grew up in South Dakota,
Texas, Oklahoma,
all over. Your mother
Colorado.
was in the industry. So take me through how you became a chef and landed in Kansas City.
Well, I from the time I was probably 12, I was in a restaurant every day.
What kind
After
of
school.
restaurant?
My mother was part of this group called Zyder Z. It was exactly like Red Lobster. They had one here in Kansas City on Shawnee Mission Parkway. It had Shawnee Mission way out west. I don't know. Anyway, had the windmill on it. They had them in Denver, Lubbock, Tulsa. Anyway, Wichita. And so she was a troubleshooter. So she worked her way up from like a server, waitress back in the day, to a district manager by the end. And we just moved every year. But they would give her, I don't know, because she was a woman, they always told her to go into some store and beat the hell out of it, fix it.
Fix it.
Okay. And so we did. And so we'd move. We moved every year. I went to 11 schools to get through 12 years of school. And I was just in the restaurant from the time I was 12 years old. I was in a restaurant. She'd pay me $50 on a Saturday to clean the oyster pit.
Oh, little oyster experience. Okay.
It's this box about 5 foot by 4 foot rectangle box, and below the oyster bar, and you have to get in it, and it's up to my waist. It's sludge, and you clean it out. So she'd pay me $50. In 1973, that was a lot. And then we'd throw my clothes away because they stunk.
Oh my God.
Because it was gross. Nobody would do it in the restaurant, so I would do it. But $50 for a kid in
Yeah.
1973, that's huge. $50 now. I'm paying some guy $50 to clean my hoods today. So, Anyway, so I was in the restaurant, and I just always worked. And so I didn't love, nobody knew, nothing was happening in this business. Nothing, it was like you were going to be a chef at Denny's, you were going to be a chef at a hotel, you're going to be a chef at some Caribbean country club, or like a resort, or you're going to be at a country club. And so nobody knew any of this was happening. But I was in the business, and I got a psych degree because I thought I'm going to go to school, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to get a degree, and then I'll be a professional. I'll be like a real professional. And then I realized I wasn't smart enough to be a scientist in psychology, and I didn't want to sit in the office all day long because that wasn't me. So I traveled through Europe as a backpacker, and that changed my life. And then when I got back, I applied for this job at this restaurant that I had no idea what it was. It just said looking for cooks at this fine dining French restaurant, and it happened to be in Denver. I lived in Pueblo at the time, Colorado. The chef hired me on the spot, and he became my mentor. He took care of me. I worked. I did everything he did. I mimicked everything he did. If he was working on a carrot that he turned, if he was working on an artichoke, a potato, I went and got one and I did it. And I did it until I got good at it. And then he moved back to Europe, and then I said, I'm going to join you in a year. He said, okay. And I saved 10 grand, and I packed up my first wife and daughter, and we moved there. I had balls back then.
So just pick up,
Sorry.
move, and then...
I sold my stuff that I owned twice to move to Europe and work.
Yeah.
You have to be willing
Both
to do
times
that.
in France, though.
Yeah.
So...
Because he was in France. Had he been in Italy or something, I would have gone there. He'd have been in Czechoslovakia, I'd have been there. If he'd have been in...
Okay.
I just was trying to go somewhere to learn.
And from there...
And back in the day, in 1980s, you had to, some people went to Italy, and I don't know how, they were either there because they were working in some Long Island Italian restaurant, and the guy knew some guy, and he sent him over there. I mean, there's a reason you went. You didn't just go and show up. Somebody had to send, you kind of had to, But if you wanted to be taken serious as a chef, you had to go to France. I mean, now you can go anywhere in the world. You go to Italy, you go to Thailand, you go to Singapore, you go to Bangkok, you go to Hong Kong, you go to New York, you can go to L.A. Back then it was go to France, learn how to be a chef.
80s and 90s, totally French.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you come back to the U.S. and you're...
So I land in the U.S. and I just luck out and get a job at Charlie Trotter's. Nobody knew who he was. We thought it was a cafeteria practically. I mean, he said it was going to be a fine dining restaurant, but Charlie Trotter, that's the name. It was like Marie Callender. I mean, we just didn't know what that meant.
Such a big name
Right.
now, but
Right.
yeah.
Nobody knew who he was. We didn't even know what the hell we were doing. We were he hired a ton of great cooks. We were all really good. And we were putting food on the menu like 5 minutes to 6. Oh, we're changing the venison today. Okay. There was a lot of pressure. He drank a lot of espresso. He made me look like I was in molasses, stuck in molasses.
And we know that you're pretty high energy.
Yeah. So anyway, and he let me. I was his first sous chef. He had a sous chef, Jeff Felsenthal, who was his best friend. He goes, "I'll give you 6 months, and then I'm out because I want to maintain our friendship." And so I worked there for 2 years, but he hired me knowing that I would be his next sous chef. So I wasn't training because I was working on the line and doing regular cook stuff, but I was there and I was ready to step in. So then I was a sous chef for about a year and a half, and it was good. We were just starting to break out of this mold. When I worked for him, it was all about California cooking. It was all Bradley Ogden and Jeremiah Tower. Nothing. I'd come from France, but he didn't want anything to do with quenelle, turning anything. He didn't want anything to do with that. One of the first dishes I put on the menu was a stuffed duck leg. I stuffed it with sweetbreads and black trumpet mushrooms, and served it with these artichoke and red wine artichoke braised beans. And he tasted the dish and he's like, "This is incredible, but I can't put this on the menu." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "It's a duck leg. Oh, I can't do that." So I went home and got all my French cookbooks. I'd been collecting about 15 or 20 of them. I brought 3 or 4 of them that had an incredible stuffed duck leg type dish. It wasn't what I did. I may have copied somewhere, but I don't know. And I showed him and he's like, "All right, we'll put that on."
And so what was his, I'm not
Because
sure I
the duck
understand.
breast is the breast is what you want to serve in a fine dining restaurant, not
right.
the leg.
Not
the
the
leg
leg.
is.
Yeah.
And I did it because we kept you serving the breast, and we had about 500 legs in the freezer. And I'm like, that's how I cook today. I don't waste anything. Another dish I put on the menu that was one of the first. It was his first dish that he served over $30. It was a fresh spaghetti tossed with truffles, and it was a lamb loin, lamb heart, and lamb tongue. And he's like, "We'll never sell this," and we sold it. When you work for the chef, when you're young like that, and you work for a chef who lets you put food on the menu and it sells, that gives you a lot of confidence that you know that you can make food that somebody will buy. I tell my cooks all the time, you need to know that you can make food someone will buy. But that's not the only reason. I mean, I make food that I want to eat. And if I think it's delicious and I want to eat it, I've always hoped that my customers would eat it too.
And you've always been able to, particularly with extra virgin, get people to eat things that
Right.
maybe we were a little bit nervous about.
And I invented none of that. But they trust me because I gave them mashed potatoes and mushroom sauce with halibut for 5 years. Then I gave them, maybe veal, braised veal with a veal tripe sauce. And the sauce was not, it didn't scare them. They ate it and they loved it and they didn't know what it was. And I told them it was tripe and they're like, "Oh." And then it wasn't just me, but then TV changed everything. The Anthony Bourdain guys and Zimmern, because they're traveling the world and they're eating all this cool stuff, and our customers are watching that on TV and they're more adventurous than ever. I was just there to facilitate it happening for them in Kansas City.
I can remember when I first started covering you as a reporter at the Star. That would have been the mid-'90s. I don't think we even had Food Network television available in Kansas City.
Maybe 96 or 97, because I remember doing, I did 5 shows for Ready, Set, Cook.
Oh, wow.
The grab bag kind of food.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. They give you a bag of food, and somebody from the audience gave you a bag of 5 ingredients, and you had to make 2 dishes or something.
Do you like those kind of challenges?
No, they're stupid.
What do you think about, the chef culture that has grown from food television?
Well, I think it's been a little bit detrimental to the cooks because they don't want to work hard. Nobody wants to work hard in the kitchen. And it takes 10 years. I mean, the problem so the culture is that we've got to you can open a restaurant at any time, at any level, at any price point, and you can be successful. But doesn't necessarily mean you know how to cook. And that's not, I'm not trying to be, uppity about it. I'm just saying, there's a level of, and some of these young kids do learn it because they start so young. They do learn, and they're young when they know a lot. And that's okay. That's great. But a lot of them don't. And you have to really know the fundamentals. You just do. You're never going to get past that. They're going to fail somewhere down the line if you don't learn the fundamentals. It's as basic as building a house. It just is.
But these days, it seems like you also have to have sort of a facility for interviews and media and social media and all of that. And that was not even a thing when when you landed here in Kansas City. So
I remember going to the dining room at the American and just having to, I cruised the dining room at Gordon in Chicago, and the first time I went to dining room to talk to a very important guest was at Charlie Trotter's. He went on vacation about 4 months into my gig as a sous chef, and we had not gotten we were waiting for a review from the Tribune, and he went on vacation, went to Florida with his wife Lisa, and I was in charge, and the food critics came in. They came in twice, and I fed them, and they were tough. They were a husband and wife couple. I forget their names from back then, but they were tough, and we got 4 stars. And I went out and talked to them, and I was very nervous. And then I went to the, at the American. I visited the dining room at Gordon was very raucous crowd. He was a gay owner, and so it was just a loose. I mean, it was a tight operation, but loose atmosphere in a way. It was fun. The dining room was decorated cool. It was downtown, windows everywhere, and it was just that environment. So it was easy to walk around in. And wasn't good at it, but I could walk around in there and talk to people. I asked Kathleen Turner if she enjoyed her dinner, and she blew smoke in my face because you could smoke in the cigarettes back in the day. You could smoke. She was a big, whatever. Anyway.
So you got comfortable kind of working.
Yeah. But when I went to the American, then it's like, hands behind your back and sort of bent over and it was dinner time. I mean, it was just harder. It was you felt very heavy-ish. Mm-hmm. So I had to be very polite. Yeah. And I didn't know my customer. I didn't know how much money, I just knew they had a lot of money and they were very important, but I didn't know who they were. I didn't, whatever. And then at 40 Sardines, I learned how to be in that room and be more casual, more fun. And then at Michael Smith, it was back to kind of formalish. And then when EV opened up, everything changed for me because I could go in that room and I felt it. I wanted to create a space where if I was behind the kitchen and I saw somebody at the bar that I knew, I could point at them and like wave or what's going on or talk to them, read lips a little, or something like that. And then I could be louder. And then as I walked through the hall, I would be like, and then be more formal. And I entered the MS dining room. And then at some point, after about 5 or 6 years, I would go through that dining room and I'd be like, what's going on? What are you doing here? Because I would just yell at them or something or say, because I didn't care anymore. I was like, I don't care. I'm not trying to have a fine dining. Chill out. We're going to be noisy, Michael. That's great. Be noisy. Okay, great. Awesome. Are you sure? Yeah.
Isn't that the change, though, that we've seen in dining in the last 20 to 25 years?
Yeah.
We've gone from fine dining, which was a little bit buttoned up and formal, and which fork do I use and which wine glass, I'm so confused kind of thing, and to it just doesn't really matter because we're all coming in our jeans and we're feeling casual and we want to yell to the chef across the room and say, hey.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there's still some rooms that don't dictate that. I think, but we're trying to. I mean, there's still people that look at the MS side of the dining room and they feel a little bit intimidated because they're not dressed right or whatever, or don't or can't afford it. But at Farina, we kind of did away with a couple of things. The carpets. We have some rugs, but we did away with we have wood floors. We did away with the tablecloth, and we're hoping that it just takes it down a notch or two that the customer feels. Elegant. There's some elegant dining option, and yet it's, enough that you can have some fun and whatever, let loose or be a little more casual.
But you had some fun people in Michael Smith's.
Oh yeah.
And when
it's been great over the year cultivating this. And that's what Nancy's more sentimental than me about, really, because the dining room, she's cultivated this dining room and the wine list, and she can people what they want to drink, and where they want to sit and all this, and it's fun. The kitchens are all, my kitchen's old over there. I took over a 7-year-old kitchen from, whatever. And so I'm a little more antsy about moving into a nice, organized space. And she's sentimental about giving up that space that she's created. And with that room, we cultivated some really cool people and customers. And
So Nancy, your wife, was running Instagram this week, and I saw some of the things that she was remembering, some of the famous people that came by. So
Did she post? I saw that, but I wasn't sure who posted that.
Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mick Jagger. How did he end up in the restaurant?
I don't know. As people, we get a lot of calls. We really don't get that many famous people, but there's been a few. We get calls a lot that say we need a what do they call a vet? We want to vet the restaurant. Okay, come by. We'll be and they'll look around and then we may never hear from them. They never tell you who it is. They just go, we have somebody in. We need to vet the place, and they'll say you need to blah blah blah. You can't be here. You can't be there. You can't sit over here. Close the bathrooms. Whatever.
Is this like security?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're guys. They're fixer guys. So two guys came in and Nancy walked them through everything, and he said, "Okay, it's between." They told us it was between us and I don't know. The American maybe or Blue Stem, anyway. But they didn't say who it was. Rolling Stones were in town, so we thought maybe it's them. And it was fine. But they made us close the restrooms, and that's part of the dining room. I mean, there's no other access, so they said, "Look, close them or we're leaving." And I said, "Okay, well, I close them." So we closed them. But he was cool. He was fine. He was very quiet. He was with his. He was only with one other bandmate, a guy that we went to the show the next night and we saw him. He was playing that. What's that round? Small, horn instrument, the horn, French horn. He was playing the French horn.
French horn?
Yeah.
Wow.
That guy joined him, so he wasn't one of the original guys. He had his...
Not a huge rock and roll instrument.
Right. But they use a lot of horns in their music.
Yeah.
But he was with his publicist, his dresser, his stylist, another guy that did all of his... he was with like two design people. There was 5 of them. And they all ordered regular food, and he ordered the dumbest thing. Whatever. I mean, he ordered some... Whatever.
Not exciting? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, he ordered these 2 dishes. He combined this pasta and this... We had this dish at the time, and I'd done it at the American a bunch of times, and it was just a fun dish to do in the summertime, but I think it was fall, but it was sheets of... We have this sheeter it's a Japanese tool that we make sheets of potato, and we fry them flattish. They're kind of curled, but they're kind of wavy, but they're flat, and we stack it up with vegetables, and then we put medallion of fish in between. So we were doing char. So we did char, a bunch of vegetables. It's like a Napoleon. And it was a great dish. With vinaigrette, it was light and fresh and nice. He wanted that. We had this Mafaldi dish on with bell peppers and tomatoes and basil and herbs and garlic. And he wanted those 2 together. And whatever.
Did it hurt?
Yeah. I did my best. But it was a dumb dish. And he liked it, and he said he ate it. It was great. But whatever.
Well, there you go.
But the people around him said, it was great. We loved everything, and they were cool, and we sent him down to, we were trying to get him down to, they were going to take him down to, what's the speakeasy down the street, and with Ryan Maybe.
Manifesto?
Yes, Manifesto, yeah. Okay. Trying to do that. The guys actually had some girls on the patio they were hanging out with, and those guys it was weird. But we talked to them, we took a picture. He was cool.
Lots of fun. You also had Ferran Adria.
That was fun.
Who is considered, one of the greatest chefs in the world at this point in time.
Yeah.
And he was visiting for an exhibit at the Nelson.
His own exhibit.
Right, his own exhibit about food. And did you get to hang out with him? I know you dined at his place.
Yeah, we hung out a little bit at Boulevard the night before and sat at his table. He doesn't speak English, so... Or he didn't speak English to me.
No, that's true. I
think
did
he
an
does.
interview with him, and I had to go through an interpreter.
Yeah.
It makes it a little tough. So also going way back, I remember you hanging out, and this was a picture also that Nancy ran with Julia Child.
Yeah.
And I
cool.
remember that so clearly. She was just such a spitfire. Do you remember something about someone asking if they could use something besides butter?
Oh yeah, when she was up in the audience at that, yeah, and she said why? I mean, she said exactly what she's been saying for 30, 40, 50 years or whatever.
Yeah, why would you not use butter?
Right, everything in moderation, and it's true.
I have to say the photograph that was taken, and I don't know if it was a star photograph or another.
I don't know who sent that to me.
I love that photograph of you. You're just you're really engaged with her. It's a black and white photo.
She. Somebody sent that to me, and I have no idea to this day. But I used to have I used to keep it really small up above on this little ledge at MS. But people would steal. Like I had another couple of photos at 40 Sardines down the hallway of the restrooms, and people stole them. So we kept that one. But one of my servers made that one a little bit larger for us and framed it and gave it to me a long time, 8 years ago or something. Anyway, so I was standing backstage ready to introduce her. I don't know who introduced her on stage that day, but I was standing backstage waiting with her, and she was 80, whatever, 87 or something, right? And I could hear all of the plumbing. I mean, it was just funny. It was like she was hollow, because it was dark back there and it was empty. It was
Are you
just
saying
backstage.
she gurgled?
A little bit. I just hear she'd swallow and I'd hear it coming down. I mean, it was just weird. I just noticed. I don't know why I remember that, but it was just so quiet. I could hear her breathing because she was old, so she was breathing harder. Anyway, then we walked up to the thing, and I told her the night before. I said, I knelt down to her table, and she's like, this is an incredible meal. I feel like you just cooked for our table. It was a good meal. We did a good job, I thought. There was 100 people. Anyway, I said, well, I'll be assisting you tomorrow. I got everything ready for you. They told me to pick out 3 recipes. I ran it by her, Stephanie, her assistant, and we approved everything. And she goes, I'm not doing this. You're cooking. I'm going to be sitting on stage with a glass of wine.
Well,
and
and
she
that's
was.
pretty much the stage of life that she was at.
Yeah.
And that was a really great moment for you, wasn't it?
Well, I'd done in Chicago, I'd done like Marshall Fields at the time. I did demos there, but you're in a little thing, a kiosk, and maybe there's 20 people who stop by, but there's people. But I'd never done a formal kind of cooking class, and so she said, "You're gonna." And so there was 300 people there.
Yeah, it was a big group.
Yeah,
and I think
so
that's
I was nervous.
The first time I saw you do a cooking class, and I think one thing that before we go, I think I was talking to Nancy not long ago, and. I said, what is it about Michael that you think is his biggest contribution, not only as the first James Beard award-winning chef in Kansas City, but what do you think he's most contributed? And she said, he really mentors a lot. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I teach kids every day. I tell my customers, we're not a restaurant, we're a cooking school. We cook. I got so many kids. You're starting over all the time. I got 2, God dang, it's hard. But, and I treat them like crap sometimes. I mean, I treat them good. But I tell them flat out, dude, you need to learn this because you will not succeed if you do not learn this. This is basic.
Yeah, so honesty.
Yeah, I tell them all the time, you're going to, I tell them, all these kitchens you see on TV, I really hope you get to work in those kitchens. But if you don't, you better know how to do this. Mm-hmm. Because this place, it's hard to work in, but you got to make it happen. Some guy's going to give you a chef job, and then you go, "This is my kitchen. Can you do it or not? Because I'm not remodeling." And you go, "Yes, sir, I can do it," because you want a chef job.
Yeah. So the restaurant Farina is opening on
February 5.
And you're ready to roll. Your staff's ready to roll.
We've got a staff, and we are. If we don't jack up the food, we'll be fine.
I find this really endearing about you, but why would you even say that? You've been so successful for so many years.
Because I've never taken it for granted, and I'm having nightmares now about whether you make the right menu choices, whether you can execute it, timing. If the food's late, they don't care how good it is sometimes. I mean, in some cities they do. They're willing to wait. They don't wait in Kansas City. They're pissed off.
We're impatient folk. Huh?
Yes. I just never take it for granted, and I'm trying to think of like when I opened 40 Sardines, I thought, when the critics hate it, they'll say, 40 sardines, more like 20. So then, they'll go, Farina, burnt flour, or what's the headline? I always think of the headlines, like the bad headlines.
Wow. And so is that helpful to you? Is that what makes you successful and drives you forward?
Yes, I'm afraid of failure. I cannot fail. I can never fail. I can't.
Well, I highly doubt that will happen. But Michael Smith, thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for taking the time to talk with us. And if only everyone could see the fabulous hands. I love the way you talk with your hands.
I'm trying to hide them.
Don't do it. It will only, mess up. It's like the smile on radio, right?
The only reason I'm not using them more today is I have to lean on this table, so I have to be careful.
It's been great talking to you. I really do appreciate
Same here.
it. And
I enjoyed it.
we'll stop by soon.
Thank you.
I'll bring Lindsay along with me.
All right.
All right. Take care.